Hello, everyone. This week, we've had a lot of rain in California. I know in my video where, I guess it's a failed video for rain, I was saying how it rarely rained. Well, this year, we have a ton of rain. Now we're looking at being at the end of January. I recall I think it's the first video of the year, I was, talking about New Year's resolutions, and I wanted to kind of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I'm like, well, I better try out DaVinci Resolve, Reaper again, just to make sure, just to get them out of my system. And I did try them out. In fact, the last three videos was edited in DaVinci Resolve. And the song I'm working on now, which now I got to transfer over to Final Cut, was done in Reaper. They both kind of didn't cut the mustard. I make these videos also kind of for myself, so in the future I could look back and go like, oh, wasn't it good? Why didn't it work? And I can just watch this video and tell myself, oh, that's why. So here I'm going to go into OBS here, and I'm going to talk about why neither program worked, and I'll be sticking with Final Cut Pro and Logic. So here we go. Okay, for my first example, I have Reaper here. Now what I like to do is I'll punch in, like I'll record like a verse, and then I'll do a chorus or whatever, or even right here, I punched in at the beginning of the drums. I usually like to keep a gap. That way, the beginning of a note isn't cut off like you can see here. But on Logic, when you do a punch in, it records like up to 5 seconds of audio beforehand, and you can just drag back and you'll have the beginning of your note. But here, you do not. You have just blank. And so you have part of your note kind of cut off. And it's doing that little weird wiggle there. I don't know what that is. Is it just adjusting it over? Huh. That's weird. Other than that, I can get into record like this. It's great. You can kind of route anything you want. On Logic, you can, let me go over. Oh, there we are. Logic, it's just so much easier to like get like a bass sound without any third-party plugins. Don't mind EZdrummer 3 here. That is legitimately awesome. But yeah, it's really great. I just feel like maybe it's just because I'm more used to it, I can just get a sound quicker. I know I was trying to get into the whole hardcore recording, and I think for just basic music and audio, like recording a band live, Reaper's great. It can run on a toaster, and like when we recorded the House on album, was recorded 8 tracks simultaneously onto a 2011 MacBook Air, and it recorded like a champ. So Reaper's great at that. And like if I was just doing kind of more of a live thing, but a lot of my stuff I'm doing is I'm basically recording as I go. So right here, like after I did my bass, I was like, okay, wait a second, I want to add a little here. I'm going to edit the drums and all that stuff. And you can do that in Reaper, but it's a way easier in Logic. And for a lazy songwriter like myself, it's a great thing. Now, there's another problem I was having with Reaper, and I was kind of wondering how I would structure this. But the other program I was looking to switch to was DaVinci Resolve. Now, the one fatal error, and this is kind of where it started, and I'll get into why it kind of led to Reaper being on the chopping block too, along with the other things. But here we have the cut page. So when I originally started looking at DaVinci, I was like, man, this thing is so cool. You've got a tab for everything. You got your import tab. You got your cut page, which is your quick editing page. You got your edit page, which is where you do your more advanced edits. You've got the Fusion tab, or you can do kind of like your motion graphics and all that stuff. You've got your color grading tab. You've got your audio tab, and then you've got your export tab. And I'm like, this is very cool. And it's also, one, its strength, and also its weakness. Because one, you do the first tab, and you're done with it for the rest of the thing. Okay, not a big deal. Then we go to the cut page, which is kind of like Final Cut, but kind of not. And what you're supposed to do is do your rough cut with this and do your more advanced cuts over here. But what I found was I didn't really use this page much because I basically don't do really any J cuts or L cuts, and I could still do cross dissolves in the cut page. So I stayed in the cut page. I tried to go into the edit page, but then I'd always end up back over here because it was just quicker and easier. Now this reminds me a lot of Final Cut Pro, which is maybe why they called it the cut page. But the problem is it hates my trackpad. And I love my trackpad. I use it for everything. And in DaVinci Resolve, it does not. Like, you can't like just do a pinch and zoom. You have to do like, you hold down Command, or is it Control? Yeah, it's Control to zoom in out with 2 fingers. So everything else on the computer works with a pinch to zoom except for this. The cut page doesn't have a pinch to zoom. But the problem is if you grab here with your mouse and drag, it works fine. Like, you can go here and hit play. You can drag it again, hit play. But if you try to use the trackpad, it will like delay and error and glitch. And I'll have to like hit like spacebar a couple times before it play. Let me try to give an example here. And hopefully you can hear me whacking on the spacebar trying to get it to start. But like, see, like I hit it like 3 or 4 times before it would start. See, it was like 2 that time. And then a lot of times, see the volume cut out a little bit there?
Keep going?
I'll just cut it out.
Okay.
It's just like, I either have to hit the spacebar a lot or the audio cut out right at the beginning. Doesn't do it when you grab it up here though. You can do whatever you want. And that isn't that big of a deal, but it was a little bit enough towards where I was going, Now I also edited the same video on Final Cut Pro. I released this one in DaVinci Resolve, but like, I was just doing a comparison. I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I've been using DaVinci Resolve for the last month. Let me try Final Cut. And I could edit so much faster in Final Cut. And so I said, okay, I'm going back to Final Cut. And Reaper was kind of iffy at that point, but then something happened. I opened Final Cut and all of a sudden it starts glitching and functions don't work. And I had to call AppleCare for, we had to figure this out. But after AppleCare and Googling and all that stuff, I ended up, they're going to call me back at 4 today, but I've already fixed it. I have Melda plugins. I had the PreSonus Fat Channel and Ampere, which Ampere, I played with it a little bit and I got a really great bass sound out of it. So I might have to do a video on that on my Windows computer. But my Mac does not like Ampere. My Mac did not like Melda plugins. And I was using them in Reaper. But when I was trying to do Final Cut, it would glitch out. And so certain functions wouldn't work. And it would always error saying cannot load plugins. So I basically uninstalled the plugins and everything started working again. But then that left me with no plugins for Reaper except for EZdrummer. And I just said, screw it. I'm just going to use Logic. I'm comfortable with it. It's basically on all the Halcyon album. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, like I said originally. I tried to get away, but the walled garden wouldn't let me escape, and now I'm in the dungeon underneath the walled garden, and I guess that's okay. It's just so hard to compete with how fast Final Cut is. If I ever do escape the walled garden, I know I can use DaVinci Resolve. I'll probably have to get that $400 little wheel editor thing they have so I don't get that stupid thing with the trackpad. I also tested it on the Windows PC with the trackpad on the laptop. It still did that glitch thing. It does not like trackpads. So whatever, I'm happy. I'm going to stick with the walled garden of Apple once again. And hopefully future me will come to this video and he'll listen to me saying, do not attempt this again. Do not put these third-party apps. EZdrummer was fine. Spitfire Audio is fine. But the Melda Productions one, which is fine on my Windows PC, and the PreSonus one, but whatever, I'm fine. I've been using the Apple amps. I was hoping after I heard that bass on the PreSonus, I was like, oh, maybe I'll just use the PreSonus, but did not like. So anyway, this is enough of me ranting. I have to leave soon, so we'll pick it up from there. All right, I'm on my way to, I think, practice, maybe not. Might have practice, might just record. But yeah, that's why I'm sticking with the old walled garden once again. I mean, if things get bad, I think I can, like I said before, get one of those $400 little editors, and I think that'll fix the problem. But I think by then I'll be dire straits, and it'll be long past if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Also, I wanted to comment, I forgot to mention earlier, another big thing I did not like about DaVinci Resolve was it saves all the files like in one folder you tell it to, and it kind of got mixed up. I couldn't tell one project from a next. The only way is by the date, and if you do 2 projects at a time, then on the same day, then you're going to have a problem with figuring out what is what. When I used to use it, that wasn't a problem because I was doing like 1 video at a time, but now I'm doing multiple things at a time. And Logic keeps the optimized media right next to the folder you're working on, and I keep that in the folder where all the files are. So when I'm done, I just throw away 1 folder and everything's off my hard drive. So anyway, that's all. Long ranting. I'm off, and I hope you enjoy this, and see you next week, and have a good one.